And hello, guys. I am back for part 2 of this, but actually, I think it's called part 5 in the update in the play series. But okay, I'm back, and as I said, we're going to talk about loot. Here's like this is an old promo poster I put together, but there's 193 pieces of loot in Dungeon Crusade. I know most of you I've talked about. I am just ever since I was young to now, I am a dungeon crawl junkie. All of this stuff. I love it. So in creating Dungeon Crusade, I'm sure you're just like me. We love loot. Well, I took the time to create 193 unique pieces of loot in this game. And a big shout out to Kesrick and Sean. Those were the artists who I gave the prototype stuff to. And then they used, of course, their creativity, imagination, and made, the final loot for the game for what, the names are, what I named everything. So this is an old poster, but this is just the breakdown I want to give you. There's everything. Loot. There's swords, bows, crossbows, staffs, daggers, hammers, maces, scepters, axes, armor, gauntlets, bracers, shields, helmets, charms, rings, necklaces, cloaks. I could go on and on. I mean, everything is in there but the kitchen sink, and that was important to me. It was another thing that was paramount. We have all this loot to discover in Avalon. So the breakdown here, in the loot deck, there's 20 pieces of junk loot. Yes, there's junk in Avalon. Everything's not all shiny and good. You're going to find junk. And this was my little sense of humor thrown in there, too, with some of the stuff in the flavor text I wrote. So there's 20 pieces of junk loot. There's 12 pieces of starting gear. Okay, then for common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary, there's 29 unique pieces. Underworld artifacts are the most deadly weapons in the game. And you have to power underworld artifacts with life force. So we won't get, there's a whole section on that I did. If you go back and look at the Kickstarter update, it was maybe 97, where you could see all of that stuff. And then there's 6 pieces of that, and then rounding it up is fabled gear. And when I created fabled gear is there's 10 pieces of it, and this stuff belonged to the characters in the story I wrote for Dungeon Crusade. And this stuff is very powerful, and it is very expensive. It's a lot of gold. But the thing is, you can do a lot of damage with some of this stuff, and there's a lot of great buffs and benefits you can get from fabled gear. So I'm just going to touch on this really quick. I thought you'd like to look at some of this. So let's look at, and this is junk. We're going to look at, just remember, this is junk. Helmet and a skull. And then some of my flavor text. What a great helmet. But the skull is fused within the helmet and won't budge. So you could find that. And so just like when I created this game, it's like you're not going to just find great stuff. Just imagine you're fighting this level 4 champion monsters and maybe one of your hero perished, and you win the loot roll. That's where you have to roll the d20 to see if this monster was carrying any loot. Okay, it was carrying loot. You grab the loot, and it's a helmet and skull. That's Dungeon Crusade for you. However, you're going to see some very awesome stuff that you can get. And then lastly, I'm not gonna show everything. I'll show one more thing here for you, another piece of junk loot. Old playing cards. I hope that my screen thing isn't cutting off the top. These stained and damaged cards are believed to be from the House of Chance for the game Skulljack. And if you know that there is, this is the House of Chance right here. That's in the village. And on Celebration Day, the heroes can go in there, and there's only one of 4 it's selected at random, one of 4 House of Chance games. So those that old playing cards that came from this game, Skulljack. Hope you see how I weave all this stuff together. The lore and the games and like this piece of junk loot. Well, here's Skulljack. And this game is in the Master of the Realm edition. Very simple form of blackjack. And your hero, you can play up to 3 heroes in here. And you have to beat the evil dealer Skulljack. And this is a very fun game. If you like blackjack, you're going to love Skulljack. So that was I just wanted to show you that a piece of that junk loot and, what the House of Chance was and give you a look at the game. So next, we're going to go on to some starting gear. And this is Mahaliak's starting weapon. This is a gray level weapon. This is this is Lyrena's starting weapon, unbalanced axe. So again, some of my I put flavor text. I wrote 193 pieces of flavor text. The handle is too light while the axe head is too heavy. And that's so, starting weapon is just that. It's just totally starting weapons. That's Mahaliak's, an ancient axe dating back hundreds of years ago. Primordial axe. And then we'll look at just one more starting weapon. This is Palum, our rogue hero. She starts with a dull stiletto. And if you look at this flavor text here, another one of my things of tying things in, this thing won't even cut through fresh harvest bread. Okay, so what's harvest bread, right? Well, harvest bread is actually in the game. This is, of course, a token. And I'll keep it a mystery, but when your heroes go to the village, there's a chance they could get harvest bread. They can take it with them, put it in their backpack, and the reverse side of this token will say what it does. But what it does is your heroes can consume that and regain 2 health and 2 essence. And then you have to discard the harvest bread token. And then you could also find elderberry juice. And that will, when you quaff that down, or your hero quaffs it down, that will restore 4 health and 4 essence to your hero. So again, I just wanted to point that out with the flavor text about, well, what's harvest bread? Well, that's in the game. Again, just tying all this stuff together so you can, just make it more immersive for you. So moving along from harvest bread, what are we going to look at now? Okay, then we're going to get into some common gear here. And I'm trying to keep this stuff a secret. But I'll tell you what, let's bring this over here so you can actually see some of this here. There is, and this, my point was, all of this is ready. All of this loot you're seeing is all ready. That's some of the common gear. So common gear is not that great. It's white. It's okay. But my point was, and I meant to say this before, I apologize. All of this has been converted. I got this all ready, 193 pieces, so that's out of the way. So going back to those monster cards, that there's 558 of them and 193 of these, that was a lot to get out of the way and ready for manufacturing. So I'm sorry I didn't say that at the beginning of that, but that's why I'm showing you this. The loot cards are all done for the game. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop this. We're going to go into part 3. Again, I hope you're enjoying this. I love spending some time with you guys and showing you stuff, and just all excited for it. Okay, I will see you back, and we're going to go through a little bit more loot here. And then I'm going to show you some other stuff that got done. So I'll talk to you in a few.